So I think this is an interesting story, especially for technology leaders and anybody really in the technology world, and having the fundamental question of how long can you maintain this tempo? So we're going to be talking about Israel today. We're going to be talking about the Iron Dome, but this is just, again, this is basically just a plot device for me to talk about this bigger concept of can you keep working at the pace that you currently are? One of the big problems you have in like startup world is there's this idea that employees should work 80 hours a week or 100 hours a week. And the problem is for a little while you can, right? If you need to deploy something, if you need to get something ready for shipping, fine, for a month or something, everybody gets there, they do 7-day weeks, they do 16-hour days, and they get the crap out the door. But the important thing to consider is that you need downtime, right? You need your people to be able to rest. You need to reassess what the situation is and what resources you need going into the future. And you need to make sure that you can have the supplies of resources and all those kinds of things in order to keep delivering on whatever it is you're trying to deliver for. So that's one of the big problems you can have, especially in downturns with recessions and that type of thing, is many times workers will try to work a little harder so that they don't get fired. And then the employers will say, oh, well, one person can actually do the job of two. They'll lay somebody off. And then there's a tremendous amount of stress on that one person. And at some point they just go cracker dog and they lose their damn minds, go bat crap crazy. And then it's bad for the organization and everything else. And I think it's kind of interesting taking a look at Iron Dome, because Iron Dome in Israel is absolutely a fascinating piece of technology. So basically what this is it's their air defense system for missiles and rockets that come in. It's one of the layers of their air defense system. And it has worked to just an incredible degree over the past, 12 or 13 years. So for whatever reason, Hamas and Hezbollah and other people that dislike Israel think launching rockets into Israel is a good idea. Right? Some people, when they get pissed off, they spray paint graffiti. Some people, when they get pissed off, they, I don't know, steal catalytic converters or whatever. If you're in the Middle East and you get pissed off, apparently you just launch a couple of rockets at whoever the hell you're pissed off with. Well, the interesting thing with Iron Dome is it's done a fabulous job over the years, right? Basically, the missiles come in, they have about a 90% success rate. They only attack missiles where they think that the missile will actually land in a public area so that it can serve the ammunition that it's shooting off, and it has just done simply a terrific job in the war. In the crap show going on in Gaza, right, and the absolute devastation of Gaza, Gaza has sent a lot of rockets into Israel, and most of those have been successfully shot down. The question, though, becomes, is what is the limits of the system, and what happens if you hit the catastrophic limits of your system? So one of the things you have to be thinking about with technology systems is many technology systems, basically, when they start becoming more inefficient, right? The inefficiency is a pretty linear downward trajectory, right? So let's say you have a server that's able to support 10,000 users, right? So it supports 10,000 users. The CPU is at like 60%, 70%. RAM utilization is fine. Drive utilization is fine, the whole 9 yards. You get up to 11,000 users. All of a sudden, you start pegging out your CPU. You start using all of your RAM. And here's the thing, right? There's not enough resources for all the users. And so all the users start getting slower and slower response times, right? And then you get up to 12,000 users, and then it starts to get slower response times. And then as you get more and more users, right, it's that nice linear, right? Here is where you're at optimum. Here's where you have 11,000 users. Here's where you have 13,000 users, right? And it starts getting slower and slower and slower and slower. And that's how you think about with most technology systems. But you can have systems where you get to basically catastrophic failure. Think about this again with Active Directory. I love Active Directory. I'm an Active Directory fanboy, and I will not lie. But with Active Directory, now you only get so many licenses. Basically, it's like a port license. It's a seat license. So let's say you have 100 licenses for your company. When you get to 101, when you get to 102, when you get to 103, those will no longer be able to work. And the problem is sometimes it'll cause issues throughout the entire system, and everything gets to be wonkadoodle. Make sure you always buy enough Microsoft licenses, right? And it's not, you don't get this nice linear down. You start getting sporadic. Everything kind of goes to hell. One of the things to be thinking about with something like the Iron Dome system is when it works well, it works fabulously. But you got to think about it. In order for this thing to work, right, there have to be enough missiles. The radar stations and all that have to work appropriately. They have to be rearmed. It's like when you launch a missile, it's not like an old Calico, 22, where you get 100 rounds in it. Every time you launch a missile, the missiles have to be redone and all that. So the thing is, if an Iron Dome system is able to deal with one rocket coming in, fine. It's able to deal with 10 rockets coming in, fine. It's able to deal with 100 rockets coming in, fine. But is it able to deal with 100 rockets coming in every 10 minutes? Right? 100 rockets every day, the system can deal with. 100 rockets every hour, system might start having some efficiency issues. 100 rockets every 10 minutes, right? When do you start getting to basically catastrophic failure of the entire system? And that becomes interesting when it looks like they want to go to war with Hezbollah. So again, Israel doesn't have a lot of friends. Again, not getting snarky, not getting in the middle of all that kind of crap right now, but a lot of people in the Middle East really, really, really don't like Israel. Hezbollah has 150 to 200,000 rockets, missiles, drones, the whole 9 yards. And one of the interesting questions is for this Iron Dome system is what happens if it gets overloaded and you get to catastrophic failure. I think it's something kind of curious to be thinking about. And again, what about for the people that have gotten very used to the system working? Well, because the system worked yesterday, it'll work tomorrow, right? This system worked well against the rockets coming out of Gaza, so it will save us. This system worked well for the rockets, missiles, drones, the whole 9 yards that Iran shot at them a couple months ago. So we're safe. But what happens when somebody basically on their border just starts shooting off rockets as if it's a damn machine gun? It's a curious thing to take a look at. Again, hate to say, but the real world. Eli, it's horrible. People are going to die. Yes.
Of course.
There's this new, was it Monday Fun Day? There's this new YouTuber I've been watching that I just love him. He's like a military guy. He has the darkest, most horrible humor. Anyways, he has a shirt. He has a shirt on. He always wears a shirt now, and it says "Live, Love, Toaster Bath." Like, Eli, how fucked up is your humor? I'm gonna buy one of those T-shirts. I have to figure out how to buy the T-shirt. He has like a mug of it. I want the Live, Love, Toaster Bath T-shirt. You're like, Eli, what does Live, Love, Toaster Bath mean? Oh, don't worry. You don't understand. It's okay. Monday Fun Day, or whatever that thing is. If you watch them, great show. Anyways. Tensions are high along Israel's border with Lebanon, where Israeli forces have been trading fire with the militia group Hezbollah. In a speech last week, Hezbollah's leader warned that if war erupts, then all of Israel would be under threat. Quote, "The enemy knows very well that no place will be safe from our missiles and drones," Hezbollah's leader said on June 19th. Keeping those weapons from hitting Israeli territory is the job of a sophisticated air defense system called Iron Dome. It has intercepted thousands of missiles over the years and has been critical to protecting Israel's cities during the latest war in Gaza. But some experts warn that Hezbollah's arsenal could push the system past its limits. Right?
The battle.
If we go down, Hezbollah has Iron Dome in its sights, and this could be just a small taste of what's to come, says Tom Karako, director of the Missile Defense Project. Unlike the Palestinian group Hamas, Hezbollah is believed to have a large arsenal of precision-guided weapons that it could fire in a war with Israel. Quote, "Look, there's not enough Iron Domes in the world to contend with the reported 100,000 or so rockets that Hezbollah may have," he warns. Karako says the Iron Dome works not because it's state-of-the-art, but because it's economical. The interceptor missiles are relatively affordable, and they're fired only if they're really needed. Quote, they prioritize being choosy about the shots that they take, and they prioritize cost, he said. The system boasts more than a 90% success rate, according to its manufacturer, and its performance has astounded even the experts. During a 2021 conflict, Palestinian militant groups fired hundreds of rockets from the Gaza Strip towards Tel Aviv, Israel. But Kaliski has been watching as the system has struggled to deal with Hezbollah's tactics. The group has been using anti-tank missiles, which fly low to the ground. The missiles, which can be fired only over short ranges, are too fast for Iron Dome to intercept, and they fly below the minimum altitude of the interceptor missiles. Unmanned aerial vehicles also pose a problem for Iron Dome's radar. The UAVs are made of carbon-based materials like wood and plastic that don't reflect radar as well as metal rockets do. Quote, "It's very difficult to detect them. Moreover, the border with Lebanon is home to a lot of birds that can be mistaken by the radar systems for UAVs. You have many, many, many false alarms. And again, this is kind of the interesting thing. I talk about that, right? The Grubhub for grenades. Imagine Grubhub for grenade. And again, it's an interesting thing that they're bringing up with birds. Again, because they talk about that, like the F-35. The F-35 has the radar cross-section of a golf ball. Wow. Here's an interesting question. What if you put wings on a golf ball? Wings on an exploding golf ball. What? Like, literally, what if you put wings on an exploding golf ball and you sent like 3,000 of them in that particular direction? What the hell would Iron Dome do at that particular time? Again, you start talking about these small things. And again, is it a bird? Is it a bird or is it a bomb? Again, things to really consider with sensors and all that kind of stuff. Quote, to be honest, I think that Hezbollah recognized our gaps, says Zavika, a retired brigadier general who oversaw Israel's air defenses from 2015 to 2018. For that reason, they are using more and more UAVs in the last few weeks. Hamovich says that a conflict with Hezbollah would look nothing like the previous wars with Gaza, including the one that began on October 7th. Hezbollah holds today double and triple the number of rockets and missiles that Hamas launched on October 7th. In fact, the exact size and composition of Hezbollah's arsenal is a closely guarded secret. Quote, we often see numbers like 150 or even 200,000 rockets, says Fabian Hintz, an expert. It's a bit difficult to say how serious these assessments are, but in general, we can say that these are quite massive stockpiles. Those weapons can threaten Iron Dome in another way, he says, by attacking the missile launchers themselves. But if you know where the Iron Dome missile battery sits, you might actually try taking out the batteries themselves, he says. In fact, Hezbollah published a video of an apparent strike on an Iron Dome launcher in June, though it's unclear whether it was a real system or a decoy. And that's an interesting thing to be thinking about, like with war and like, again, war at the speed of mopeds, right? Again, war is, hypersonic missiles and all that kind of crap. Again, what is it Mike Rowe says? See where everybody else is going and then go in the opposite direction. Everybody else is going hypersonic missile. Maybe the real way of doing warfare is mopeds. But again, it's something to think about. Is if you're trying to take out like barracks, you're trying to take out tanks, those types of things, you need big, large missiles, rockets that are actually going to have enough explosive power to do the type of damage that you're looking at doing. One of the interesting things is going after things like the anti-missile, the anti-missile type systems, though, is there is an interesting question of basically how well are those things defended? They talk about that in Ukraine, right? With the S-400 missile systems that Russia has, that relatively small drones can actually take them out of action. Again, you've got radar arrays, right? There's almost no way to heavily armor a radar array just because how the damn thing's built. What if you just sent 10 explosive golf balls literally just to take out the radar arrays, right? Where are the other soft points of these types of systems? So you go, look, we have the toughest tanks in the world. There's no way in hell your golf balls are going to take out these tanks. And you say, fair enough. I'm not going to try to take out your tanks. I won't try to take out the radar arrays or those types of things. And then if you're able to make these systems become less effective, then if you start sending in the larger caliber rockets and missiles and that type of thing, what does it look like after that? Again, thinking about that whole idea of what does catastrophic failure look like in these particular scenarios. Let's see here. A new conflict in Lebanon would challenge Iron Dome in another way. Israel doesn't have an infinite number of interceptors in its stockpile. Himovich says since October 7th, Israel has fended off attacks from every direction. As it has done so, it has been expending missiles faster than they can be manufactured. That's one of the big things we see in the current military, stuff going on. Basically, you literally have manufacturing constraints. Quote, after 8 months of thousands of interceptions, it's a big challenge, he says. Carrico says that if there is a broader war with Hezbollah, it's unlikely Iron Dome can provide the kind of protection that Israelis have grown accustomed to. So anyways, there you go. Some things to ponder. Again, about this whole idea of modern warfare and all that. And this whole idea that, we can protect ourselves. Again, what's Eli's suggestion? that we really should try to figure out how the hell to live with each other. Because there's this idea, like there's this weird idea that we can protect ourselves. Like we can create weapon systems that are so advanced, so sophisticated that we're going to be safe. And the problem that you run into, especially in the modern world, again, as I say, all right, this is a GPS module. Whoops. And when I say this is a GPS module, you have to understand, not all this, that is a GPS module. You can buy it for like $30 off of Amazon. That's actually a weird ass antenna that goes along with it. Right, that's a GPS module. Here's a compute module, right? This is a Raspberry Pi Zero, costs you 10, 12 bucks, right? You got cameras, you got communication systems, right? This is an LTE communication system, the exact same size. You can now get this from Blues for satellite communication. And again, what becomes very interesting is you realize you can have a very, very capable, electronics package on your weapons for 200 bucks. Again, just like, I talk about that, people say like, oh, my smartphone now, is more powerful than the NT servers I used to work on back in 2000, right? And everybody nods their heads, right? Of course. One of the things to be thinking about, though, and the same kind of thing is true with things like missiles and weapon systems, right? The technology that you can buy for $200 now and basically fit in, a package about as big as this damn USB battery, right? That's more powerful than whatever missiles or, ICBM missiles we're using back in 2000 the same way. And so it does become an interesting question. Again, how does warfare and all this work in a world where technology is becoming more ubiquitous and more affordable and the whole 9 yards? It'll be curious. It will be curious to see how all this works out at the end of the day. I don't know. I think it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. Again, all the blue hairs. That's why I feel bad about the blue hairs. All the blue hairs. They keep crying. They keep crying. They're like, oh my God, the world is so hard. Oh, girlfriend, live, love, toaster back. Do you love that? It's only gonna get worse. Oh, girlfriend, you're not sure how you're gonna live through today. When you're sitting there sipping on that mocha cappuccino thing or whatever, in your air conditioning with your toilet that actually flushes, and you just don't understand how the world can get any worse. Oh, girlfriend, it can get so much worse.
Your middle tower.
So much worse. And that's where we're going. So anyways, so what do you think about this? What do you think about the idea of getting to essentially catastrophic failure with a system like the Iron Dome? What does this look like? Again, with warfare going in the future. Again, we have the Houthis down in Yemen, right? They've decided plinking cargo carriers is a good idea. And again, what do you do about that, right? You got battleships. Normally, you're used to ships, right? So we got our ship, and they've got their ship. So if their ships are sending missiles and we don't like it, we try to sink their ship. Right? What happens when you got just Yemen? Again, what happens when you have the biggest battleship known to man, where you just got this country that's essentially facing this ocean choke, this navigation choke point, and they can just literally take Toyota trucks, park wherever the hell they want to, send off their missile, go the hell away. Again, what does that look like, for war going in the future? It'll be interesting to see. It will be interesting to see. So what do you think about all this? If you like these videos, make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and if you want to throw a couple of dog biscuits over to Roxy, there's a donor box link down in the description. And with that, see y'all later.
Ce faci când câștigi casa ta cu Sticky? Te bucuri de noi începuturi pline de emoție, pasiune,
For years, Alienware's laptops have been absolutely insane, out of this world machines that are insanely fast that you maybe don't actually want, because using them in real life kinda suck. Well, hopefully they're gonna change that here today, because we have the new M16R2 that promises to be kind of practical. But first, let's have a look at the power adapter to see just how fast this might be. You're looking at 240 watts, which is being delivered over a barrel jack. Now, at that kind of a wattage, it is pretty difficult to get it over USB Type-C, so I will accept the barrel jack, but it's still not my favorite because this is a massive power adapter. Is there anything else in here? Got a little manual. Do we have any stickers? Oh, stickers. Heck yeah. So here we have the new M16, and it is looking pretty good. It actually looks a lot like Dell's gaming laptops, like G3, G5, that kind of more budget stuff. But this is definitely a bit more premium. How heavy is this? It feels pretty light, given that I know that there's a 47 here. One sec. 5.4 pounds. That's pretty heavy, but not too bad, given that it's a gaming laptop. And with the charger, we're up to nearly 6.9. For context, that's a total carry weight just over 3 kilograms. Looking at the I/O, it is quite solid. On the right side, we have a micro SD card reader and 2 Type A ports that are in the exact correct spot to make sure that if you have a wired mouse, it runs straight into the wire right there. Very bad placement, but I'm glad that they have them. We also have Thunderbolt 4, USB Type-C that connects directly to the DGPU, HDMI 2.1, our power input right there. And on the left side, we have headphone microphone combo jack and 2.5 gigabit LAN, which I really like to see. Looking at the design overall, the materials are quite premium, although it does kind of look like a laptop from like 3-4 years ago. This really isn't giving me designed in 2023 vibes. But that said, look at the size of this trackpad. It is tiny compared to the amount of space that they could have used if they really wanted to go for it. For comparison, here is the Origin laptop that we used for screen recording on our short circuit set. It is a slightly larger laptop, but just look at the size difference of those trackpads. It is complete night and day. Looking at the design overall, again, it is very reserved, but it is very high quality. As you can see, there's very little flex around the keyboard. It's very well built. We also can see where all of the cooling is going. So there's a whole bunch of vents here, vents on the sides and vents on the back. So I believe it's sucking in from the bottom and blowing out there and there and there and there. And it's really loud at the moment. What are you doing? Overdrive button works. Confirmed that. And we also confirmed the segue to our sponsor. Thanks to UPDF for sponsoring this video. UPDF is your ultimate AI PDF assistant powered by GPT-4o. Whether you're on Windows, Mac, iPad, iOS, or Android, UPDF makes editing, annotating, OCR, citing, compressing, sharing, and converting PDFs a breeze. Its clean and user-friendly interface is great for everyone from beginners to pros. UPDF's AI is helpful for summarizing papers, especially in science and engineering, by pulling out key info like abstracts and conclusions, and it works in over 30 languages. Plus, it can translate text while you read it. Check out UPDF by using the link down in the description. Looking at this display, the first thing that I'm noticing is that it's not particularly bright, although it is a matte display, so props for that, Alienware. It gets up to 375 nits as tested by our labs, which means it's fine enough indoors. I have it maxed right now and it's acceptable enough, but at the same time, you try and take this outside, not gonna happen. You are not going to see a thing, and that is compounded by the gamma leaning a little bit towards the darker end. So things that are black are going to be more blacker on here, so your dark areas might be not quite as bright as you would expect. That said though, the color accuracy of this panel is absolutely fantastic. It covers 100% of sRGB, although it only covers sRGB. You don't get a wider color space than that. We measured an average Delta E 2000 of 1.42, which is absolutely fantastic. You expect less than 2 to do professional color work, so as long as you don't need the wider color spaces like DCI P3 or Adobe RGB, you can very much trust this display. Now in the future, we are going to be changing our measurements a little bit to Delta E ITP, which is a better way of measuring the colors on a display. And this right here, as our first one, gets an average Delta E ITP of 6.54, which is, again, really good. It's not quite as good as like a MacBook in reference display mode, but you know what a MacBook can't do? Display 240 FPS straight to your eyeballs. That's right, this thing right here has a 240 hertz panel and 1600p, so that's like 1440p, but a 16 by 10 edition, which is just fantastic because I really love that even gaming laptops like this have those slightly taller displays because it makes more sense for the size of a laptop. And also, it's just so much better for professional applications, browsing the web, that sort of stuff. What also is great are the specs of this thing. So we have the Intel Core Ultra 7 155H. If you really want it, you can go up to the Ultra 9, but I suspect that's not going to be getting you a whole lot more performance. We also have 16 gigabytes of RAM running at 5600 mega transfers per second. Ooh! And it says the form factor is SODIMM, which is very exciting. This might actually be upgradable. We also have a Samsung NVMe SSD that is 1 terabyte. And also apparently you can set this up in RAID 0 from the factory if you just want things to be really fast and not very reliable. We also have Intel Wi-Fi 7 on board. We also have NVIDIA RTX 4070. That is the top spec of this. And you might know that the R1 version of this came with up to an RTX 4090, which means that the new one is slower. But as we said at the start, that is because they were able to make this chassis way smaller than the old one, and most people just weren't buying over a 4070 anyway. Also in here we have the NPU with our Intel processor, which we now know is not powerful enough to do most of the AI things that come with Microsoft Copilot, so it's useless. Alright, let's play some games. Now, I did just launch Rocket League, and as you can hear, it's really flippin' loud. Now, one interesting thing that our labs noted is that even if you're in like balanced mode or quiet mode or whatever, if it's plugged in and you turn on a game, it automatically goes to performance mode, which is, why is this 100% GPU fan speed? You can see this right here. The GPU is at 50 degrees Celsius. It does not need to be at 100% fan speed. Balance, maybe quiet down, please. All right, it appears that we have gained 2 degrees, oh, maybe 3 on the GPU, and we now cannot hear the fans. Excellent tuning, Dell. All right, this is not a very heavy game, but we are seeing 250 to 300 FPS. That's pretty darn good, and especially with this 240 Hz display, I imagine this is going to be a pretty good time. If I'm honest, I was planning on kind of complaining about this display, because if you look at it compared to like most of what other gaming laptops have now, which is like OLEDs and stuff like that, it didn't sound like it would be too good, but now that I'm seeing it in game, this is excellent for gaming. You don't necessarily need like the darkest blacks or the most contrast for a game, because sometimes that can be not even as good if what you want to see is kind of dark on your display. We have confirmed that this gaming laptop is much powerful enough to play this. Let's head out. Just changed over to performance mode again. Switch to performance preset. No, change settings. All right, we can disable it. We can go in the software, we can flip a switch, and then it doesn't automatically go to performance mode, which I quite appreciate. If you are playing a game and it seems like things are heating up a little bit too much, you can just press this button right here. Boom, high performance mode enabled. There we go. For the most part, I don't want that. We can just very simply have it be in balanced mode and everything will be happy. This does also have NVIDIA Advanced Optimus, so you have G-Sync in there of course, and we also have a direct line from the GPU directly to your display. So it can get a little bit confused at times, but for the most part, it means that you're going to have an extra 10 or so FPS compared to if it had to put those frames through your iGPU first to get it to the display. Yeah, we're in Valheim here and we're looking at 75 FPS, highest possible details. That's at 1600p. Of course, our lab also put it through the paces, so we're looking at 104 FPS in Cyberpunk 2077, 159 FPS in F1 2023, and 80 FPS in Total War Warhammer 3, and that is coming out of the 140 watt 4070 in this model of the M16 that we have right here. Now that was able to beat the Asus Zephyrus G14, which is good because this is a much larger laptop, although it wasn't able to quite match the ROG Strix G16, which you'd think would be pretty similar at 140 watt TDP on the GPU as well, but maybe they're able to just stretch their CPU's legs a little bit more. Either way, this is a pretty freaking fast laptop, even if it is quite loud in that performance mode. But loads of gaming performance is no good to you if the keyboard is trash. Fortunately though, this one feels excellent. Yeah, this keyboard is fantastic. I'm going to give it just a solid A. There is loads of consistency between the keys. There is heaps of travel. Look at that. They feel really good. They have a nice tactile bump at the top. They don't bottom out in any sort of a weird way. There's enough chassis rigidity that they are just working really quite well. Now, I will briefly complain about the trackpad. It's overall pretty good. The tracking solid. I haven't had any problems with it, like right clicking when I meant to left click or stuff like that. I just wish there was more of it. Like I said before, there's quite a bit of space here that they definitely could have put a trackpad into, and it kind of seems like they just reused the old one from the laptop that
O viață fără sensibilitate dentară spune nu sensibilității dentare cu Elmex Sensitive Professional. Formula sa îmbunătățită creează un strat mai bun de rezistență la acid pentru o calmare imediată și de durată a durerii. Nu sensibilității dentare cu Elmex Sensitive Professional.
Had all of that extra space for fans and crap on the back, and all of this was moved down. But instead, they just didn't bother making a new one for this gen, which is kind of disappointing, especially given that this is not a cheap laptop. It's passable. I am going to accept the size of the trackpad just simply because Alienware did such a good job on this keyboard. So I will be okay maybe plugging in a mouse every now and then if I need to, if it does mean that I can comfortably type on this keyboard for hours and hours. But can I comfortably listen to music for hours? All right. Tinny. Wow. There's not a lot going on there. It's loud, but there's no bass whatsoever. Compared to the speakers that I've been hearing on other laptops, like those from Asus and Razer and HP, these do not match up to what they have been able to achieve. And it's especially disappointing because Dell on their XPS line has really fantastic
175,000-mile warranty. I use my truck as a truck, hauling horsepower, actual horses, horse poop, and mechanical horses. But honestly, with about 150,000 miles still left on my battery and motor warranties, I'm not worried about much of anything. Tires, however, aren't included in that warranty, and mine completely kicked the bucket after about 21,000 miles. They could have lasted a tad longer if I had rotated them correctly, but without the oil changes or other reasons to bring the truck into the shop, I just kinda didn't. $100 is pretty expensive compared to a normal shop, but it might be worth it depending on how much you don't want to sit in a waiting room or be without a truck for a day. If I had to pick just one word, though, to describe my experience over the last 2 years, it would be fantastic. And it is absolutely wild that this truck can hold its own in a drag race with a Lamborghini while looking like an unroasted marshmallow. When I bought my Rivian 2 years and 22,000 miles ago, it came with a bonkers 175,000-mile warranty. I use my truck as a truck, hauling horsepower, actual horses, horse poop, and mechanical horses. But honestly, with about 150,000 miles still left on my battery and motor warranties, I'm not worried about much of anything. Tires, however, aren't included in that warranty, and mine completely kicked the bucket after about 21,000 miles. They could
So surprise, surprise, not surprised, as they say. Oh, look, corporate America doesn't give a damn about BLM, doesn't give a damn about LGBTQI, A+S, whatever the hell it is. Oh my golly, surprise, surprise. It was just something that they were doing because it was a fad. And as I say with this kind of thing, the pendulum on a social change or whatever, you know, swings back and forth, and it looks like the pendulum is starting to swing back in the other direction. And I think this is something that's important to be thinking about, basically with your company, with your organization. And if you care about equity, if you care about the concepts of DEI or diversity, one of the things to be asking yourself is, are you actually cementing these systems in place within your organization in a way that is viable for going into the future? Again, one of the saddest things that I've seen, and I get a lot of hate, especially from some African Americans whenever I say this, but nobody is ever gonna hire a black guy. I would never hire a black guy. I'll say it. I'll say it. I'd never hire a black guy. I'd never hire a transgender. Oh my golly. Here's the thing.
Dire structures are fortified.
Because of the sum total of what you can say about yourself is your identity, there is no value to that. Would I hire an African American engineer? Would I hire an engineer who happens to be African American? Yes. Would I hire an instructor that happens to be transgender? Yes. But the most important thing is that they had the skill set and are able to actually perform the tasks that are required to, wait for it, bring profit to the company. If you can't bring profit to the company, you are, in fact, worthless to the company. You're worse than worthless to the company. You are actually a drain on the company. One of the big concerns that I've had, I've been screaming about this for a long time, ever since BLM popped up back in 2020, is you had a lot of these corporations very quickly doing things like hiring and putting out all this promo and all this kind of crap, and not really thinking about the value proposition going into the future, and just looking at the propaganda for the moment. And what I've said this for 3 or 4 years at this point, is that as soon as this fad is over, if you have not actually empowered the people that you've hired, if you have not actually made these viable profit centers for your corporation, all this crap is just simply going to disappear. Again, I talk about that with Tadam, right? Netflix, bigoted ass company, right? They wanted to prove BLM. So they started hiring all these people for Tadam, right? So we're gonna hire African Americans and African American women and the whole 9 yards, right? The identity. And then crap, they're a tech company. They're a tech company. Here's the thing, computers don't care, do you black? Latency does not care who you decide to have sex with. All right, there's actually skill sets that are required. And so what happens? What happens if you hyper-focus on identity? That's the big thing for hiring people. Then you're going to place them into the jobs that they can do. They hired a massive amount of people into this thing called Tadam. Have you heard of Tadam? I hadn't heard of Tadam until they started laying everybody off because nobody cared, right? Basically, it was a blog. The idea was this was one of their marketing campaigns as a way to do, advertising, PR, and whatever for the movies and the TV shows that came out. Here's the thing, nobody even knew that it existed. Nobody called Tadam woke. You know how worthless Tadam was? There was never a moment that Nerdrotic raved about the wokeness of Tadam. Nerdrotic probably still didn't know Tadam existed because nobody even cared. Nobody even cared enough to scream about it, right? But anyways, right? So they're trucking along, and then Netflix lost, 500,000 subscribers or whatever in a single month. Their market cap dropped by 2/3. They went from about being a $300 billion company down to being a $100 billion company. And guess what? They laid off everybody at Tadam. Do you want to know why they laid off everybody at Tadam? Because they were worthless. Because they were a drain on the company. So they hired black people because they wanted the press. They didn't know what to do with them, so they shoved them into Tadam. And then as soon as the economy changed a little bit, guess who got their asses shoved out the door, right? Surprise, surprise, surprise. And so this is an important thing that I really want you to be thinking about, because I know it's hard. I know I probably just pissed off a whole bunch of people with that whole thing, right? It's very important that you think about it, how is the diversity going to drive profit to your organization? Again, this is one of the things I talk about with the whole diversity thing. Think about this, 51% of the population is female. Again, why do you care about, trad wives or blue hairs or whatever else? Here's the thing, 51% of the population is female. If you ignore 51% of the population, that is 51% of the population you're ignoring for purchasing your products. That's 51% of the population that you're ignoring for employees. That's 51% of the population that you're ignoring as possible investors and all that kind of stuff. It is dumb to ignore 51% of the population. So if you're going to say we want to be supportive of women, one of the things to ask yourself is how are you actually going to make women a profit driver to your company? In 5 years, when they're talking about outreach to women, Is it going to be everybody sitting around and having little awards or whatever else? Or is it going to be some jackass salespeople going like, bam, I just bought a boat off the commissions I made from selling to those women? Because that's one of the things. Again, one of the things that's going to drive your company is salespeople. And I'm going to say something really controversial here. I'm going to say something that'll blow your mind. Yeah, salespeople really like commission. They really like commission. You show them a way that they can make more money, by God, they will make more money. So you actually design stuff where this is going to be a profit driver for the company. Then in the future, it's going to be like, I can't even imagine how we did not go after that demographic in the past. Look at how much money it's bringing in. If, on the other hand, you're doing this kind of stuff and the only salespeople that get sent over there are the ones that are, either brand new or they're on probation or whatever else, then nothing's going to happen, little golf claps. And then as soon as, the CEO needs to buy their boat, that entire division is going to get eliminated. It's very important, if you care about diversity, if you care about equity, asking yourself, how is this actually going to be a profit driver for the corporation? It is not good for the corporation unless it's a profit driver for the corporation. And if it's not, then it's all going to get dumped. Brutally and quickly. So this is interesting, coming from CNBC. Rural retailer Tractor Supply eliminates DEI roles, pride support, and carbon emissions goals. So everything the blue hairs wanted, think about that, Tractor Supply. They had one Tractor
Dire
Supply,
structures are fortified.
right? DEI roles, pride support, emission goals, the blue hairs, right? Dominant, victorious. Until the economy isn't so great. Again, I've talked about that a little bit lately. We are in the greatest economy. Biden will tell you that. Biden will tell you how amazing the economy is. Everybody who actually lives in the economy in the real world, we're not sure it's going so great. But think about that. As things change with the economy, how easy is it for these corporations to dump these types of roles as they need to get to profitability? Tractor Supply, a retail chain that sells home improvement equipment, livestock, and agricultural supplies for farmers and pet owners, is eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion roles, withdrawing carbon emission goals, and walking back support for the LGBTQ community as part of sweeping changes to environmental, social, and governance initiatives the company announced this week. The retailer said in a Thursday release that it will no longer submit data to the Human Rights Campaign, an LGBTQ advocacy group. The company will also stop sponsoring pride festivals and voting campaigns, the release said. The company previously earned a perfect score on the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's 2022 Best Places to Work, a Corporate Equality Index. And so again, one of the things to be thinking about is how quickly things can change. Tractor Supply is also retiring initiatives aimed at reducing environmental impact and improving employee diversity. The company had set goals to achieve net zero carbon emissions in operations by 2040 and to reduce its water usage by 2025. Its DEI targets included boosting the number of employees of color at the manager level and above by 50% by 2026. Tractor Supply said it's making the changes to better represent the values of the communities and customers it serves. The retailer caters to largely rural communities with 50,000 employees across 2,250 stores in 49 states. Quote, rural communities are the backbone of our nation and what make America great, Tractor Supply said in the news release. Quote, we have heard from customers that we have disappointed them and we have taken this feedback to heart. The retailer was previously included on Newsweek's list of America's greatest workplaces for diversity in 2023 and was named to Bloomberg's Gender Equality Index for 2022 and 2023. So yeah, I think this is just kind of an interesting thing. I had no idea that Tractor Supply was so woke or whatever. But apparently it was being the operative word. And so this is one of those things just to be considering, as you go forward. And again, especially if you are part of the diverse group. Again, one of the things, because again, I get a lot of people that scream at me. Everybody screams at me. But here's the thing. If you're a black person, if you're a trans person, and you're watching, one of the things I want you to think about and really ask yourself, why are you valuable to the company? Not why do they say you're valuable to the company, not what you tell your friends you're valuable to the company. But really, at the end of the day, why are you actually valuable to the company? Are you valuable to the company because of your identity? Or are you valuable to the company because you provide an irreplaceable skill set that they simply cannot do without? Right? You are the database administrator. You are the front end designer. You are the person that knows who the hell to talk to when anything goes boom, right? I think this is a really, really important thing to be thinking about right now, because unfortunately, again, I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know. Look, I've been talking about white privilege before YouTube existed. Like the first conversation I had with an executive over white privilege, I crap you not, it was before YouTube even existed, right? But something weird has happened. Again, since the BLM movement, occurred, there's like this weird push, but it's not empowering. Right, there's this idea that the white people that have these job positions only got them because they were white, and that's not the case, right? If you're gonna be a network engineer, you have to understand how the fuck networking works, right? If you're gonna be a front-end developer, a back-end developer, a database admin, you have to understand how that works. And there is in our society, there are structural issues. Again, the very fact that in the American society, how our education system works, our education system is funded from local tax dollars. So if you are in a poor area of the country, or you're in a poor community, the poor community pays for the education for the poor kids. The rich communities pay for the education for the rich kids. There's a reason for cycles. Again, good systems default to good outcomes, and bad systems are what most of America has currently. Anyways, right? And so there's some big problems there. Right, so if you're going to do a diversity, quote-unquote diversity initiatives, if you bring people in and then you empower them up to the position. Look, this person was in, they came in as a janitor or whatever else. We have internal training programs, right? And so they went from being a janitor to being a CCNP, not an A. You all know what a CCNA is worth. A CCNP, that's worth a little bit of money, right? So they went from being a janitor to a CCNP, and now they are valuable to the company. Even if they get fired, they still have their CCNP. That is empowerment that they can go to the next job, right? That is different. That is much, 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 much different than bringing people in saying, fuck, what can you do? Okay, we'll give you that job. Whether or not that job actually has a value for the company. And then they do that job that doesn't really have a value for the company. And when things shift, who the hell are you going to fire? Are you going to fire your network engineers? Are you going to fire your front-end developers? Are you going to fire the person who's doing the migration between local cloud and public cloud or whatever else? No, you're going to fire the person that you hired because of an identity. And this is something to really, really, really be thinking about right now, because this is just gonna get brutal. Again, it's horrible, it's vicious, it's nasty, it's god awful, but it's true. As an old white guy once told me, Eli, I'm not saying it's a good system, Eli. I'm saying it's a system we have. That was a wise motherfucker. That was a wise old man. So anyway, something to ponder, something to think about. And again, for you, if you care about equity and diversity, the question to ask yourself is, how are you empowering the people that you pretend to support? And if you're on the other side, you're receiving, the question you need to ask yourself is, are you being empowered, or have you simply been given a job? And if you've just been given a job, you're screwed. So anyways, so what do you think about this? What do you think about Tractor Supply eliminating DEI, pride support, carbon emissions, and the whole 9 yards? What do you think about the Domino's? Again, after BLM, BLM was weird. Because I was doing a live show. I was doing a YouTube, one of my YouTube lives. COVID was going on, and somebody asked me about George Floyd. They're like, yeah, Eli, you hear about this George Floyd thing? What do you think about that? And I didn't even look at it. Right, again, I got my degree in criminal justice, all that other crap. I'm like, okay, it's like Tuesday. It's not even that it's Tuesday, it's like 9 o'clock on a Tuesday. Like, cops killed a black guy. Who the fuck? Come on. You know, 10,000, there's 10,000 African Americans that get murdered every year in the United States. BLM, my asshole. 10,000. Again, if you look at Baltimore City, one African American man a day, on average, is murdered. And when you think about murder, again, like one of the things I talk about with violence here is everybody just thinks death is the worst thing, like death. But you also got to remember, like what happens if you survive? It's something like 4 to 5 African American men every day are horribly injured. Gunshot wounds, knives, all kinds of bullshit, right? Every day. Every fucking day. And nobody cares. Nobody gives a damn about Baltimore. And so that was the funny thing. That was like George Floyd came up. People were like, Eli, you got to talk about George Floyd. I'm like, no, I don't want to. Again, I don't know. I don't know if the police are right. I don't know if the black guy was right. Look, black guy died at the hands of police. Fuck. Wait another 30 minutes and it'll be somebody else. Right? But anyways, what was fascinating about that is, again, right, completely normal. Again, 10,000 African Americans are murdered every year in the United States. Did you know that? And again, 365 days a year. So that means 10, 20, 30. I think when I did the math, yeah, it comes about right. Somewhere between 35 to 40 African American men are murdered every single day in the United States. Reality check. Murder. And that's not all the ones that get shot, knifed, fucking beat over the head with lead pipes. That's just the dead ones. Right? Multiply that by a couple. Comes out to like 150, 200, 100, let's just say 150. Be reasonable. 150 African American men every single day in the United States being horribly,
The enemy's
horribly
bottom
fucked up.
barracks crashed and burned.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Think about it. Nobody cares, right? A cop kills a black guy. Riots
The
in the
enemy's
streets.
bottom barracks.
150
Ooh,
get jacked up every day. Right? Anyway, so that was a fascinating. Like, when George Floyd happened, I was like, I don't know. Again, what the hell am I going to add to this conversation? And then, but that was a fascinating thing. And then you had the riots, and you had the protests, and then every fucking corporation wanted to put up these BLM flags, and it was fucking weird.
Radiant
weird.
structures are fortified.
Right? Because, like, what? Like, this is a thing corporate America gets around. Anyways, they did. But anyways, and that was the dominoes fall. That was the dominoes falling. And now, take a look at it. DEI is supposed to be everywhere, and I've got all this other kind of stuff going on. And pronouns matter. Because, when you think about BLM, the most important thing is pronouns. That's its own fucking story. But anyways, right? But these dominoes start falling for whatever reason. In one particular direction. And one of the things interesting, though, is like when that kind of thing happens, like one thing happens, one thing happens. All right, George Floyd happened, Well, what you have to think about, again, the swinging pendulum of social change is what happens when the dominoes start falling in the different direction. And I think that's what we're starting to see right now, is now the dominoes are falling. And so the question will then be, just like in 2020, there's no part of me that conceived like the ramifications of George Floyd, right? Never would have bet on that shit. I also do wonder, as the dominoes start going in the other direction, what events are we seeing now that most of us would not grasp the full ramifications of where this is going?